It's noon in the east. It is 11 a.m. in Memphis. It's 9 o'clock out west. Wherever you may be, we're glad you're right here. Welcome to Weekends with Alex Witt. I am TJ Holmes. In today for Alex, we have two new reports today to tell you about what life was like for Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl during 5 years in captivity by the Taliban. Bergdahl is currently at a military hospital in Germany. Associated Press now says he's told officials there was torture involved. He was tortured and beaten by his captors. New York Times says Bergdahl also told medical officials his captors locked him in a metal cage in total darkness for weeks at a time as punishment for trying to escape. The Times reports the 28-year-old is physically able to travel, but he is not emotionally prepared to return to his family in Idaho. Meanwhile, strong new reaction today from key lawmakers and government officials to the controversy surrounding the release of 5 Taliban detainees in exchange for Bergdahl.
I believe that there are other prisoners, some of whom we have already released, that we could have released that in exchange. These 5 are the top 5 picked by the Taliban, not by us, but by the Taliban. So all I can say is you can have a certain price, but it's exacerbated by the president's decision to take everybody out of Afghanistan, and these people will be going back as the Taliban leadership.
We know we have the ability to be able to deal with people who want to threaten Americans or threaten the United States. And if that's what they go back on their word to do, or if the Qataris don't enforce what they've done, we have any number of avenues available to us to be able to deal with that.
Now, we are expecting to learn more later this week when Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel testifies on Capitol Hill. Secretary Hagel will appear at a hearing before the House Armed Services Committee Wednesday to answer questions about the transfer of those 5 detainees. Let me bring in now from L.A. Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, member of the House Intelligence Committee. Sir, thank you, as always, for being here. And in your estimation, did the president, first of all, did he break the law by not informing Congress the way it seems the law lays out he should have? And do you think he should have done more to inform Congress?
I think the president has the authority under Article 2 as the commander-in-chief to do a prisoner swap, so I think he was plainly within his constitutional power. At the same time, TJ, I think it would have been politically wise of him as a co-equal branch of Congress to have advised at least the members, the chairs and the ranking members of the relevant committees, the so-called Gang of 8 in the leadership. I think that would have made sense, and I think it could have mitigated some of the fallout in terms of the 2 branches of government. But constitutionally, he was well within his authority. Politically wise, but still, like you say, he had the right to do in your estimation. Let's listen to Senator Dianne Feinstein talking about this deal. I'll get your reaction to her on the other side.
There are concerns over, and I heard John Kerry this morning say, you know, don't worry about them in Doha. You can't help but worry about them in Doha. And we have no information on how the United States is actually going to see that they remain in Doha, that they make no comments, that they do no agitation.
Do you share that concern, Congressman, that these 5 will be a threat again somewhere out there causing chaos and possibly a direct threat to Americans still in some way, form, or fashion?
Yes, I do share that concern. The reality is that a certain percentage of those who've been released from Guantanamo have rejoined the fight, and there's no reason to think that that's going to be different here. Certainly, Qatar will make an effort as far as they can, at least for the first year, is what we're learning. But I think we have to expect that it's certainly very possible that they do return to the fight. And that's why this decision, I think, was a very close one on the merits. This was probably one of the last chances we had to get Bowe Bergdahl back. We had to pay a steep price for it with the release of these top Taliban commanders. I will say this also, though. Much has been made of the fact that this will encourage the Taliban to kidnap other Americans. I don't really give that much weight, because the reality is they're trying to kill us. So the fact that they may decide to try to capture rather than kill, that doesn't, to me, tip much in the balance. I think a legitimate factor to be concerned about that these people may return to the fight. And I'm going to look forward to the briefing we get tomorrow to find out just how dangerous these people are and just what Bergdahl's situation was. when he left, what his health situation was, so that we can evaluate the merits of the deal the president made.
Does that factor into the merits, in your opinion, whether or not how he ended up being captured, if he walked away, if some people are throwing around that word deserter, should that have factored into it at all? He's an American being held. We go get him, whatever deal is necessary.
Well, I think if we knew for certain that he was a deserter, that does weigh in the decision. I think it can't help but weigh in the decision. But if there's some uncertainty about it, and it sounds like there was, if we don't know whether he had a mental breakdown or he was trying to do a private negotiation with the Taliban, then I think we make our effort to get him back, and then we look into the facts and try him, if necessary, for desertion. But if we knew it for sure, what the circumstances were, and he walked away willingly, then I think that does weigh in the balance when you consider the added danger that these people will pose if they leave Qatar and they go back to the fight.
All right, and you say these folks here, these detainees, of course we know there are at least 149 more still being held in Guantanamo. Let's listen now to Senator McCain talking again in a new interview about what we do at Guantanamo.
Even if we close Guantanamo, we're going to send them to facilities in the United States of America. That's been the plan all along. If you think that we were going to just release everybody like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and others, I'm afraid that you've been misinformed. So we were not going to release everybody.
You know, I think certainly Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is an exception. Not to say they're not all bad guys, and you don't just want to start releasing them. And like you said, many of them, there's evidence, have returned to the fight. But what does happen to them, I guess, aside from the Mohammeds, that type of threat and danger? But what happens? What should we do? Some even suggesting, you know, the war is winding down. The war is over. This is kind of, you know, you do some kind of a POW and prisoner swaps in exchange, and this is just what happens historically. And some are arguing, well, this is Taliban. It's not necessarily like, you know, traditional warfare. So what do we do with the war winding down with the guys at Guantanamo?
Well, I think we prosecute those that are responsible for war crimes. We repatriate some of those back to their countries of origin where they can be incarcerated there, or there can be an effort to keep track of them. The really hard case, though, TJ, is what to do with the approximately 3 or 4 dozen who, for which the evidence against them is either tainted or would reveal classified sources of information, and they can't be prosecuted. At the same time, they can't be sent back without being a real risk. And that's been the problem that we've wrestled with. How long can we continue to detain these people? I'm much less concerned, frankly, with where they're detained in the sense that they could be detained safely in the United States. I really don't think that's an issue. But I am concerned that we can't hold them indefinitely. At the same time, these are some pretty dangerous people. What would you say to the American people right now? Would you say to them just hold judgment? You see what's going on out there, and like you said, this might not have been so political had it been handled differently maybe by the president, but still, there's so much back and forth now about Bergdahl and what we should have given up if this was somebody who walked off, who walked away from his post. What would you encourage the American people? Would you just simply encourage them for right now to just say, wait for all the facts and just be patient before you come to judgment about this still young soldier? I would encourage that, but I would also encourage that the American people recognize, look, this is a tough decision. This is a close decision, and you have to respect the commander-in-chief is going to have to make these tough calls. I think it would serve the administration well, frankly, if they had rolled this out in a different way and they had said to the American people, look, this was a very tough call, and here's why. The people we had to release are dangerous people, but we wanted to get our guy back, and this is why we did it. And we hope you'll understand this is the tough decision we made. I think had they taken that approach, it would have mitigated a lot of the fallout. But I would encourage the American people not only to wait to get the full facts, but also to recognize, look, at wartime, there are going to be tough decisions like this that are not clearly black or white. And at some level, you have to say he's our commander-in-chief, and we're going to respect the decision he's made. Congressman Schiff, it's always good to talk to you. We appreciate you joining us here on a Sunday. No, we'll see you again soon. Thanks, TJ.